G'day and welcome to Inside Rugby with Mark. In this show I'm going to be previewing the game between the New Zealand All Blacks and the South African Springboks to be played at Eden Park on Saturday night. Let's get into the show right now. Well, here it is folks, perhaps the preview show to the biggest game of the century so far in the rugby universe. Yes, it's the All Blacks versus the Springboks. I'm as excited as all of you are, but let's do a little bit of housekeeping first. Today I'm going to do a live stream. I'm hosting a live stream at 8 p.m. South African time, 6 a.m. New Zealand time, 2 p.m. Eastern time, and we're going to be talking about this preview show, the two teams that have been named, and all our latest thoughts before this great game happens on Saturday. So make sure you join me on the live stream later today. That's Thursday here on this part of the world, and Friday morning early in New Zealand if you're going to be an early bird in New Zealand. What I'm going to do in this show is I'm going to do the matchups between the two teams that have been named and give you my thoughts and opinions around that. And then I've put together some things where I think are going to be critical tactical elements of the game for both sides, and if they're able to do those things well, then they have a good chance of winning in my opinion. The other thing we've got to have a look at, and we'll start off with that, and that's the weather and what's it going to be like in Auckland on Saturday night. Well, as you can see from the weather forecast here that I've pulled just a few minutes ago, it looks like it's going to be raining all day in Auckland on Saturday up until about 4 p.m. in the afternoon. That means we'll have about 3 hours of dry weather before the game kicks off at 7:05 local time, and it looks like it's going to be cloudy the day before, so who knows, that rain might dissipate a little bit. We might have better conditions than what we're anticipating, but that's the current forecast as it stands now, less than 48 hours before the game gets underway. Okay, next up we're going to talk about the poll on my community page. It's been up there for a few days. Over 2,000 of you have voted in this particular poll, and the outcome of the game, according to 66% of you, is that South Africa is going to win, and 34% for the All Blacks. So that's an interesting one. And before you say it that most of my viewers are South African, that is an incorrect statement. I do have a lot of South African viewers, but it's very evenly balanced. So I think a lot of Kiwis are suggesting that the Springboks are going to win this one. That's what I feel anyway. So there we go. That's the poll from my community page. If you haven't voted, get over there now. We've still got time before it closes to put your vote on who you think's going to win this game. We might skew it a little bit more towards the All Blacks. Come on, you Kiwi fans. Let's get going. I've done something a little bit different in today's show as far as the team selections and showing you those. I've put them basically head to head so we can see the matchups through the different aspects of the team, and I'll talk around about who I think is going to win those matchups and some of the things that we need to watch out for during the game. So let's start off in the front rows, and the respective front rows we're going to see for the All Blacks: Ethan de Groot, Cody Taylor and Fletcher Newell. I got this one wrong. I thought Tamati Williams was going to start for the All Blacks, but Ethan de Groot is in there. Some of you picked that, and well done to you for choosing Ethan de Groot. And then on the Springbok side, we're going to see Oxen Chair, Malcolm Marx and Thomas du Toit. I got this one wrong as well. I thought Wilco Low would be in there starting, but Thomas du Toit, and I know a lot of the South African viewers had picked him as well. So there we go. What do we think of those front rows? Well, I think it's picked on form for the All Blacks, and those guys are going very well. I've been impressed with Fletcher Newell in the front row since he's been taking over from Tyrell Lomax while he's been injured. He's been going very, very well. But on the South African side, Oxen Chair, Malcolm Marx, absolutely brilliant. And I'm sure Thomas du Toit is going to bring that extra bit of grunt as well for the South Africans. So as I have been saying, this front row battle is going to be immense. Do not take your eyes off it. I think it's going to be a really, really good battle. So then let's move on to the tight five in general, and what are we going to be looking at towards these as far as these two teams go? Well, on the All Black side, the locks are going to be Scott Barrett, who's going to be the captain, of course, of this All Black team, and Tupou Vai has been moved into lock for this game, and a lot of people were suggesting this was going to happen just to give us a little bit more cover, but also give us a new ability off the bench. And then on the South African side, well, I had picked Etzebeth and Lut de Jager, but we're going to see Ruan Nortje. A lot of the South African supporters had said that Nortje is going to be in there. So that's a fantastic matchup in the locks. It's going to be interesting to see how the lineouts go with Etzebeth and Norkia. Those are the best strategy for the Springboks, of course, to get ball in the lineouts. And on the All Black side, we've got Barrett and Vi going for that line-out ball, so interesting there. Now, as far as the tight fives go on both teams, I can't pick a difference here. I think they're very evenly matched. I think this aura around how big and strong and tough the Springboks pack is starting to be eroded a little bit. I like what the All Blacks are doing in their forwards, and I see this an immense front row and locking combination for the All Blacks. I think they're going to do very, very well. I think it's going to be even Stevens up in that tight five. So then let's look at the starting packs in general, because now we're going to talk about the back three, of course, in each team. And for the All Blacks, this is where the changes come, of course, with Tupou Vai moving out of the 6th jersey. We're going to see Simon Parker come in again. Yes, he had his debut against Argentina. I thought he was a little bit quiet in that game, but he has to get his feet on the ground. And I think this is a good move from Razor Robertson. I'm putting my thumbs up for this one, to see Simon Parker get an opportunity in a big game like this. Now it's up to him to prove whether he's got the medal for this level. So he's going to be in the 6th jersey. Ardie Savea, congratulations to Ardie, his family and all of his fans across the world. 100 caps coming up for Ardie in this particular game, a huge milestone. And what a game to bring up your 100 caps playing against the Springboks at Eden Park. One way or another, he's never going to forget this game. So well done, Ardie Savea. You've been a talisman for the All Blacks for a number of years now. You're a fantastic human being, as well as a great player, a great leader. You're going to be the vice captain of the All Blacks again in this particular game, and get out there and enjoy your 100th cap for the All Blacks, mate. I hope it's a cracker. And then at number 8 for the All Blacks, we're going to see Wallace Satiti back. Of course, he's just returned recently from injury. He played against Argentina for a little bit in that second game. I think he'll be better because of that run, but we need Wallace Satiti to be back to his very, very best. And if we look over the Springboks side, well, we're going to see Marco van Staden. I'd picked that, I thought, on form. He was the best 6 for the Springboks in terms of the options they've got. Peter Steph-Toy, of course, in 7. You're not going to move that man around at all in this team. And then at the back for the Springboks, it's Captain Courageous himself, Siya Kolisi. He's going to be coming on and starting at number 8, and that rounds off the Springboks pack. So looking at those two packs side by side, I can't really pick too much between them at all. It's going to be a huge battle between the Lucies, of course. Simon Parker's going to have to play a really big role in this game for the All Blacks, along with Ardie Savea and Wallace Satiti. I think the All Blacks have got a little bit of a mobility advantage over the Springboks in this position, in these positions. So we're going to have to see whether that speed and accuracy is there for the All Blacks at the back three. I think that could be a telling statistic and fact of this particular game. But looking at those two packs, as far as I'm concerned, pretty even Stevens across the board. Let me know in the comments what you think, and let's talk about this on the chat today in the live stream starting in a few hours time. Okay, let's move on to the backs now and have a look at the matchups we're going to get. And first of all, I thought we'd have a look at the 9 and 10 combinations from both teams. For the All Blacks, it is Finlay Christie, and woe and behold, we didn't get any late minute surprises from Razor on that one, and a lot of you know what I think about that. But come along the chat today, because I'm more than happy to talk about Finlay Christie some more. If you've got your opinions and you want to share them, well, you can talk about it on the live stream. Outside him, we're going to see Beauden Barrett. I don't think there was going to be any surprises there at all from Razor, so that's going to be the 9-10 combination for the All Blacks. So what do those two guys bring us? Well, Finlay Christie brings us experience, I guess, a conservative approach to the game. His kicking can be quite good at times in terms of box kicks, so that's something we're going to have to look out for. And overall, I think Razor's just looking for a steady hand. That's basically it. There is no Roygaard, there is no Hotham, there's no Ratama, and Kyle Preston's on the bench for the All Blacks in this game. So we don't have that really dynamic sniping, running halfback in this game. We have a guy who's going to be steady Eddie. He's going to be doing the things that are in control. Let's just hope that Finlay Christie's passing speed is very good and he doesn't get caught by the Lucies from South Africa. That's something I'm going to really be watching in this game. As far as Beauden Barrett, well, we know what we're getting from him at the moment. Inconsistent kicking on occasions, not having the greatest ability of getting this New Zealand backline away. But he really needs to control this game, otherwise the All Blacks are going to have some problems. So that 9 and 10 combination for the All Blacks is going to be vital in this game. Looking on the other side of the coin, and we're going to see Grant Williams and we're going to see Handré Pollard. This is the combination that I'd picked before, and I thought Russie was going to go with this because I can just see that Grant Williams can give the All Blacks a lot of grief from the base of the ruck. He can keep the All Black defence very, very much in two minds. They don't know what he's going to do. He's got a great box kick as well, so as far as the artillery goes around that high ball strategy that South Africa is bound to be playing in this game, Grant Williams is a key component in that. It's not just coming down to Handré Pollard. So watch out for Williams. He could possibly score a try in this game. I think those darting runs are going to cause problems to the All Blacks, and his kicking, if accurate, is also going to be a problem. So great pick for Grant Williams, I think, for the Springboks. And then Handré Pollard outside, 83 caps for the Springboks. He's got all that experience, but he's not just a kicker. He can open up the South African backline as well. So if the expansive game does come into the equation at all through this game for the Springboks, Pollard knows how to get that backline away. So in terms of looking at that 9 and 10 combination, I think the Springboks have the much stronger 9 and 10 combination. I think this is where they could cause some problems for the All Blacks. So I'll be watching this particular battle throughout the game and see how it unfolds as well. Okay, let's get on and look at the battle in the midfields now. And for the All Blacks, we've got what we probably expected in Jordie Barrett in 12, Billy Proctor in 13. And on the South African side, as we probably expected as well, Damian de Allende in 12 and Jesse Creel in number 13. A huge amount of caps in the South African squad in the backline. I think I counted over 400 caps in their backline in this team. So Russie's really gone for the experience in the South African backline. Now, as far as this midfield goes, I think again South Africa has the advantage here, both in defence and on attack. I think de Allende and Creel are far more expressive and creative than what the All Blacks, Jordie Barrett and Billy Proctor are. There's still a question mark over Billy Proctor as far as I'm concerned, but I'm pleased that he's in the team. He's been given the opportunity to prove himself at this level, and he's getting game after game. So that's all we can ask for from Razor. It's up to Billy Proctor now to prove that he's worthy of that 13 jersey and that he can build into it. Jordie Barrett, I'd love to see him playing like he was for Leinster. He just hasn't regained that form since he's back with the All Blacks, and I think it has a lot to do with their backline structure, the way they play the game. But let's see what happens in this game. But I think when it comes to this midfield combinations, I think South Africa is also winning in this area. I think they've got the best defensive out of these two and also the best attacking abilities through their two players. Okay, let's move on to the back three for each team now, and the All Blacks have done it. They've chosen Rieko Ioane again in the 11 jersey. Let's talk about it in the chat today. Come online and give me your rants about Rieko Ioane in the 11 jersey. But Sevu Reece is gone, and we're going to see Amoni Narawa come in for the All Blacks in the number 14 jersey. So that's good news for the All Blacks at the back as far as I'm concerned. Narawa probably better under the high ball. Let's see how he goes. He's been thrown at the deep end, but nothing wrong with that. If the guy wants to stand up and be an All Black star, he's got an opportunity right now on Saturday night against the Springbok team. And at fullback, it's Will Jordan, of course, so no changes there for the All Blacks other than Narawa coming in for Sevu Reece. Now on the Springbok side, very interesting here because we're going to see Canan Moodie in the number 11 jersey. I hadn't picked that, and a lot of you said that Moodie would probably get a start, and he has. I'm pleased to see that. I'm a fan of Canan Moodie. I just didn't think he was going to get a run to start in this particular game. And Cheslin Colby in the 14 jersey, and of course Willie LaRue at fullback. So again, Russie has gone with experience. And if I look at this back three battle between these two teams, I think they're quite different. I think the South Africans, for me, again, have the edge. I think Willie LaRue's got a good kicking game that can be employed in this particular game. He also connects well with his back line. When I see Will Jordan playing, he's usually doing his own individual stuff to try and break through the line, whereas Willie LaRue is that kind of player who'll combine with his wingers and the rest of his back line and set something up from the backfield. So watch out for Willie LaRue to do that kind of play. I'm hoping Canan Moodie has a really great game in this game because I really like the guy. He's been out of sorts in a couple of games the Springboks have started him in so far, and I just want to see him have a really good game. And Cheslin Colby, well, we know he's going to be the master chess player in the high ball tactical strategy game, so watch out for him, but also watch out for his individual brilliance. When he gets that ball, he can step around any player on the field, create all sorts of problems for the All Blacks. And if the All Black tackling is as bad as it was against Argentina 2 weeks ago, Cheslin Colby could have a bit of a field day for the Springboks. But looking at this back three, again, I'm going to give the edge to the Springboks here. I think they've got more variety, they've got more attacking power, and they're just playing generally better, I think, as the back three in this particular team. Okay, let's talk about the benches now, and this is going to be another interesting aspect of the game. Not only who's on the bench, but when are the bench going to be used? I think that's a thing that's becoming more and more important in all these games. Strategic reserves at certain times in that second half are really imperative, I think, and let's hope no one gets injured so that these guys have to come on earlier in the game and we get to see a real head-to-head battle. So let's look at the All Black front row they're going to bring on. It's going to be Taimati Williams, who I thought was going to start the game. It's going to be Takiaho, who's the leading try scorer in the Rugby Championship at the moment. And it's going to be Tyrell Lomax. So this is an outstanding front row for the All Blacks to bring on in the second half. And they're not going to lose anything against the Springboks team, that's for sure. Looking at the Springboks, well, it's Jan-Henrik Wessels, it's Boan Venter, and it's going to be Wilco Lowe. Again, they're not going to lose anything as well. So this is a really great matchup because the starting front row and the bench front row that's going to come on, they basically cancel each other out as far as I'm concerned. It's going to come down to who plays well on the day, who clicks into gear mentally, and where the game's at when this front row comes on. I think that's going to be really interesting to watch. Now the All Blacks, their other two forwards, we do have a 5-3 split in both of the teams here, so that's also interesting. No 6-2, no 7-1, no 8-0, as some of you had even said. It's going to be 5-3 from both teams. So the other two forwards for the All Blacks, we're going to see Fabian Holland. It's going to be the first time he comes off the bench for the All Blacks. And Duplessis Karefi, and I think this is a good move from Razor. He's strong, he's got a lot of mobility, does a lot of work off the ball. That's really ingenious for the All Blacks. And I think that's exactly what you need later on in the game. So this is a good move because Holland's going to continue winning your line-out ball. He's going to have fresh legs in this game. So we might see him a little bit more in open play as well, just doing some good one-ups and pick and goes. So I like what I'm seeing from this bench from the All Blacks and the forwards. On the South African side, there's no RG Schneemann. How can you leave the guy out of the team? But then you've got Lud de Jager and you've got Kwagga Smith, so that's why you can leave him out of the team. But I would have put RG Schneemann in there, and the reason I put Schneemann in there is because that offload, the way he's able to break the line, he can set up a match-winning try late in the game, and I just think that's such a strong attribute to have from a player. But of course I understand 100% why Lud de Jager is going to be coming off the bench for the Springboks. But again, the Springboks in their depth, they do have other choices there. I would have picked RG Schneemann just for the record on that one. Okay, so that's the forwards that are going to come off the bench. Let me know in the comments what you think of this. Do the benches cancel each other out, or do you see one of them having a bit of an advantage? I think it's pretty even off the benches for the forwards. I think I like Holland and Karefi a lot for the All Blacks. It's a good combination. Okay, now let's have a look at the backs that will come off the bench for the respective teams. And for the All Blacks, we're going to see Kyle Preston get his debut against the Springboks. Well done, young man. Can't wait to see you on the field and doing your stuff. And I think this is really when the All Blacks might be able to go to another level. So whether they're chasing the game or whether they're in the lead, I think Kyle Preston coming on is going to cause some impact in the game. I really believe that. So watch out for his impact. And then we've got Quinn Tupaia and Damian McKenzie. I've still got a question mark over Quinn Tupaia at the moment. Probably just to regain his best form. I don't think we're seeing that at the moment from him when he's getting his opportunity. And as you all know, I like Damian McKenzie coming off the bench. I have no problem with the guy. That's his position in this All Black team. So there we go. That's going to be the three backs that come on for the All Blacks. And on the other side, the Springboks, we're going to see Kobus Reinhardt, Sasha Feinberg and Goma Zulu. And the last one coming on is going to be Ethan Hooker. And a lot of South Africans are going to be thrilled with that appointment to see Hooker coming off the bench for the Springboks and getting his chance in this huge game at Eden Park. So how do I feel about the Springboks? Well, you know what you're going to get from Kobus Reinhardt. He's very good. He can be very dangerous from running. He just needs to run at the right time, and a lot of South Africans would agree with me on that one. He can score some great tries. He has done in the past, and that's really put the South Africans over the advantage line in the second half when players are getting tired. Reinhardt is very, very fast, so watch out for him having an impact around the rucks and the scrums later in the game. And then as far as Sasha Feinberg and Gomazulu goes, well, you know what you're getting. You're getting a very classy, tricky, creative, innovative player. But depending on when he comes on and the state of the game, that is going to be very interesting. Will the box start to open it up when Sasha comes on? Or is he going to come on the game when the South Africans have got the game under control and Andre Pollard's been doing his thing, so to speak? That one's a really interesting one. And as far as Ethan Hooker goes, well, young man, you've got your chance to shine in the biggest stage of all. So let's see how you go. I'll be watching with a lot of interest, as will many South Africans be, I'm sure. So there you go. Those are the two teams. Those are the starting 15. Those are the ones coming off the bench. Those are my thoughts around the different combinations. Let me know in the comments what you think of these matchups and whether or not you think I got it right with who I thought might come out on top in those respective matchups. So those are the teams. Now, what are the tactics that are going to be needed to win this game and areas that the teams really need to focus on? So what I've done is I've put together this slide where we look at both teams and I talk about specific areas that I think are going to be critical, and I'll go through those with you now. So let's start off with the All Blacks and I'll explain what I've put down for each one of these areas. High ball management speaks for itself. They need to be good under the high ball. Not only catching the ball, but also supporting the player with the ball and making the right decisions when they come to ground. Do they just go a little bit forward and set up the next phase play? Or do they try and be counter attentive and going after a good open run? That's one of the things that I think the All Blacks need to make good decisions around. So their high ball management in this game is going to be absolutely critical. The next one on the list I put is tackle accuracy. We saw a horrendous display of tackling by the All Blacks in game 2 against Argentina. They're going to have to make sure they cut down the Springboks whenever they get a chance in open play. You've got the likes of Colby, you've got the likes of Kane and Moody. They can be very dangerous out wide. So the tackling, the defensive line, Rieko Ioane, he's going to have to show us what he's got in the defensive line in this particular game. It's going to be absolutely critical. So the accuracy of the All Blacks tackling. And around that 9-10 combination, Grant Williams, they're going to have to make sure they get him. We don't want to see what we saw with Pablo Matera in that game against Argentina, where he ran 10 to 15 metres towards the line. He got missed by Finlay Christie, he got missed by Damien McKenzie. The ball came back, Garcia went over for a try. Horrendous tackling from the All Blacks. We need to make sure that's much, much better in this particular game. Next on my list for the All Blacks is discipline. I've talked a lot about this over the last few days. No yellow cards, no red cards, minimum amount of penalties, making sure your decisions going into the breakdown is smart. If it's not, don't go for it, stay back and make sure you set up the support play. That's going to be important for the All Blacks. They can't afford to go down to 14 men or even 13 men in this game. Andre Pollard will take advantage of it, as will the rest of the South African team. So discipline from the All Blacks will be huge. Next on the list for them, their error rate. And what I'm talking about is their error rate when it comes to handling. In particular, if they want to play an expansive game, let's not see drop passes. Let's not see balls up above the head of the player who's running outside. Let's not see passes going into touch when a winger's trying to get the ball. The All Blacks need to minimise the number of errors that they have in this game. It's also in the forwards they need to be careful. The line-out throws, the communication needs to be accurate. They need to minimise the errors across the park. In terms of their kicking strategy, they need to make sure the kicks are competitive and they have an opportunity. Otherwise, for me, it's an unforced error and they're giving South Africa an opportunity to turn over the ball with no pressure. So error rate for me from the All Blacks needs to be minimalised and they need to have a very accurate game. Okay, next thing I put on the All Blacks list, overall kicking strategy. Yes, Beauden Barrett, he's been pretty on and off throughout the Rugby Championship. We know that sometimes he can be very brilliant with this. Sometimes it's also the bounce of the ball when he does those little chip kicks or grubber kicks, whether or not they can be regained by the All Blacks. My issue with those kicks is they need to be made competitive so that his fellow players have an opportunity to get up. I want to see Geordie Barrett and Billy Proctor having a chance to win those 50-50 balls, not having the ball going directly to the South African backs and giving them an opportunity to kick it up, to pick it up and to run the ball or to kick it back at the All Blacks. The other thing is, when Beauden Barrett's kicking for touch, we need to see those touch finders making touch and not giving the South African back three of Moody, Colby and Willie LaRue an opportunity to be offensive and bring the ball back and gain territory for the Springboks. So the kicking strategy overall from Beauden Barrett needs to be really on point, and I also include there his percentage kicks from penalties and conversions and even drop goals. We need to see that that's in the very high 90%, because that could win or lose the All Blacks the game. The last thing on my list for the All Blacks that I think they need to focus on is decision making. When is it going to be the right time to open the game up and go expansive? It's not going to be on every single ruck and maul. They need to make sure they work over the South African forwards, put them under pressure, get them going back into their own territory, and then start to do the open play. So there needs to be some good decision making from the All Blacks. The next thing is, when they do get penalties, kicking for goal or kicking for touch, this is going to be important in this game. If it's going to be a tight game, maybe taking the points early on is going to be a smart thing to do. Keep the pressure on the Springboks on the scoreboard rather than getting them to try and chase tries. That could be a smart move from the All Blacks. Last time out against Argentina, we saw them take a scrum late in the game, when the previous week they'd scored 2 tries from line-out mauls. So that decision making from me was off as well from the leadership group. So I hope that the vice captain Ardie Savea gets into the captain Scott Barrett's ear in this game, and that these two and the other leaders in the All Black team, the senior leadership group, are able to make smart decisions throughout this game, because it could come down to one tactical call or another that makes you win or lose this particular match. Okay, so those are the things that I think the All Blacks need to do tactically smart, and why. Now here's the list for the South Africans. Let's go through that. You might see some of the same words there, but they have a different meaning in my opinion, so hear me out on these ones. So first of all, the high ball strategy. When it comes to the Springboks, it's about making sure that they put the ball in the right place, and they do it often enough without overdoing it. I think the South Africans could overdo the high ball kicking in this game, and that could set up the All Blacks with some opportunities. We saw what happened with Australia in that first game in Johannesburg. Whenever the ball was in open play and they got some spontaneous opportunities, the Wallabies took advantage of it and they opened up the Springboks at the back. Well, I could see the All Blacks doing the same thing if the Springboks kicking strategy is too strong or too frequent. I want to see them doing a very intelligent high ball strategy to win that out. So Andre Pollard and Grant Williams are going to be the men for me, and even Willie LaRue at the back. I think he can put up a couple of high balls as well, chase through with his wingers and put pressure on the All Blacks back three in particular. Okay, next up for the Springboks is their rush defence. This is going to be critical in the game because it's going to have to be accurate. They can put that All Black backline under a lot of pressure, as we saw Argentina do in Game 2 in Buenos Aires, and I think that the South Africans can do the same thing. They've been deploying the strategy against the All Blacks for the last few games they've played against each other, and it's worked extremely well. This backline is playing poorly for the All Blacks, so a rush defence against them could put them under all sorts of pressure, and that could lead to quick turnover ball for the Springboks, and that's where I think the Springboks could then play the expansive game on the back of those mistakes from the All Blacks. So look for the rush defence from South Africa having a big impact, particularly on Finlay Christie and on Beauden Barrett in this game. The list for the Springboks to be watching out for is discipline. Of course, applies to both teams, but the Springboks have been giving away a lot of penalties in their recent games. They can't afford to get a card either, and they're going to have to make sure their penalties, particularly in scrums and lineouts, kept to an absolute minimum. So discipline from the box, a big one as well. And then next up, time in possession. What do I mean by this? Well, I think there's going to be a lot of momentum shifts in this game, and if the All Blacks get on a roll, they can be extremely dangerous, scoring a number of tries. So what I'd like to see the Springboks do in this game is to try and control their time in possession. If that means slowing the ball down a bit, using the kicks for touch, getting lineouts, rucks and mauls, then go to it. I think the more time the Springboks have the ball, the less time the All Blacks are going to have in terms of creating opportunities in this game. So I think time in possession is going to be a critical stat in this game, particularly on the Springbok side. The All Blacks don't need to get a lot of ball to score tries, so even if they got 45% of the possession in this game, the All Blacks can turn that into points. So the more time South Africa has with the ball, I think that's going to be an important factor to consider in the outcome of the game. Okay, next one, It's not a rocket science, this one. It's the overall kicking game. That's why we're seeing Handré Pollard starting in this game. But it's not just him for me. It's also Grant Williams with box kicks and clever kicks from the base of the ruck. He can also use the blind side and put some kicks down there behind the New Zealand defence. I wouldn't be surprised if they try and turn Rico Ioane around and put a lot of pressure in behind him, between him and Jordan, the Springboks. So look for Grant Williams doing that. Look for Handré Pollard using the blind side, and look for Willie le Roux coming up in terms of their kicking strategy as well. So the Boks for me have three really good kickers in their team that can give different looks at this for the All Blacks and start to cause a lot of pressure and concerns in the back three. So I think the overall kicking strategy from the Boks, if mastered well, could be a game changer in this particular game. Okay, and the last one for me for the Springboks, decision making. But what I'm talking about here is their decision making on what type of game they want to play. So I suspect we're going to see the kicking game to start off with, and trying to get some possession and territory and getting points as soon as they possibly can. But then I'm going to think that we're going to see some expansive opportunities from the Springboks throughout this game. I think the decision making around when to do that, when not to do that, is going to be important in the game. We saw it in Johannesburg. They kept putting the pedal on the metal, trying to play the expansive game against the All Blacks, against the Wallabies, I should say. It didn't work out. It backfired, in fact. But I think they've learnt from that, and we're going to see Handré Pollard make the decision to manage the game a lot more effectively, and that's why he's starting this particular game. But it could be interesting when Sasha Feinberg comes on. Is he going to have the same mentality to be able to manage the game of whatever is needed at the time? Or is he purely going to come on to open the game up for the Springboks? I think the decision making around what those two players do is going to be really, really important in this game, as well as also the kicking for goal, and whether or not you take the points or you kick for touch and go down and put pressure on the All Blacks with defensive lineouts and defensive scrums. That's going to be a really key component, decision making for the Springboks. Okay, so what do I think is going to happen? Who's going to win this game in my opinion? Well, I can only see it going a couple of ways. If the All Blacks get off to a great start and they get 2 or 3 tries on the board, I think they can hold on and win this game very closely. I can't see the Springboks running them down too much in the second half. I think the All Blacks have got a great bench today for this game, and I think that might have the impact they've been finally looking for. But if the All Blacks fall off their accuracy, particularly around tackling, if they give away too many points through ill discipline, then I think the Springboks can win it. The only chance I'm going to give for the Springboks, if they get off to a good start, they put in a great first 30 minutes, they keep the game close, and we see that their game strategy is working, then I think the Springboks can win the game, and they can hold on, or they can pip the All Blacks in the end by getting that critical penalty or going over for that masterful try and getting a 3, 4 or 5 point victory in this game. I think it's going to be close unless the All Blacks open it up in the first 20 or 30 minutes. Now, as you can see here, I've got all the excuses ready for both sides. I've got the Springboks book of excuses standing by. I've got the New Zealand Wheel of Fortune excuses standing by for all of you when your team either wins or loses. So don't worry, that's in the locker ready to go. And I suspect we're going to be hearing a lot of that stuff after the game. I just hope rugby is the winner on Saturday night. I hope the TMO and referees stay out of it. I hope we don't get any cards, and we just see one of the classic games between New Zealand and South Africa. That's what I'm hoping for the most. At the end of the day, of course, I want the All Blacks to win. If they don't, yeah, I'll be sad. But as long as it's been a great game of rugby, I'm going to embrace that. I'm going to celebrate that. And I'm going to keep this rugby channel going and talking about the game for a long time, I'm sure. Now, let me know in the comments what you think about all the things I've shared in this preview show. And importantly, turn up on the live stream today and we can talk about a lot of this in person. You can give me your feedback to the things that I've just said in the show, and I look forward to having fun with a lot of you again then. Okay, before the game starts, head over to the community page and vote in the poll for this particular game. You have to scroll down a few, it's down there, and see whether we can get a more reflective opinion on who you think is going to win the game. And if you're going along to the game at Eden Park on Saturday night, let me know in the comments. Come and join us on the live stream and tell us about your excitement, your anticipation for the game. Love to hear your views and opinions on that one. Okay, I'll see you all on the live stream. Until then, stay well, stay safe. Keep enjoying your rugby, everyone. Let's go.